Good morning. Welcome back to Trending on Shaw. Our show today is all about snow, and we're talking about the mountains and outdoor adventures. Joining us on our panel here is Albie Soul, Mountain Programs Coordinator at the Outdoor Center.
Good morning.
In a few moments, we're going to be talking more specifically with Kelly Semple, who's the Executive Director, Hunting for Tomorrow, and Director of Alberta Hunter Education Instructors Association.
Nicely done.
Thank you very much.
All in one breath.
Great having you here.
Jody Robbins will be talking about outdoor adventures in the mountains that aren't necessarily have to do with skiing or snowboarding.
Let's get back into those items that are trending this morning. Let's start off with a new business trend in home offices. It's called offices. Offices.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard of offices?
Yeah, we actually have quite a few in Calgary. I don't know if it's the same, if they call it the same thing, but they're shared workspaces.
No.
So it works like a gym pass would, sort of. You know, you have a space, you might have shared desks, you pay more to have your own desk. They have boardrooms that you can use, that sort of thing.
Well, but what this Swedish project is doing is saying using our own homes. So we're gonna head over to Jody's place, and she says, "Welcome. Would you like some tea? Would you like some coffee? Here's my couch. Here's a few tables. Have at her." So we open up your homes.
Yeah, that's
the difference.
Different. Mm-hmm.
You like this idea?
You know, it's interesting. I once worked for a bit in Sweden, and this was a decade ago, and at every single office I went into, they had a kitchen. And it was very common that employees would have meetings or have breakfast together. And this was, and I'd never seen this in Calgary, and it was a very neat IKEA-type open concept space. So I think it's a cultural thing for them.
Yeah. Outdoor workspaces is something that you're familiar with, Kelly.
Yeah, it's not new to us. I mean, we do lots of teaching in the classroom, but the bulk of what we do is to go outdoors and to provide that learning in the natural setting. So for us, our offices are lots of times our vehicles, or the backdrop is a stream or a river or a backcountry.
Nice.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the best office in the world. So great, good job on catching up.
It's still indoors though, they haven't really caught up.
Well, they're working their way.
But think about how many small business owners that we have here in the city that want to meet somewhere with a potential client. And you say, well, let's meet at, I don't know, one of these local coffee shops where it's very loud, it's very...
And if you're anything like me, I can't work from home. I get distracted. If I have to do something at home, anything, it's like, oh, I better vacuum. The floor's kind of dirty. Oh, I should put some laundry in or something. Like, I'll do everything but actual homework or work or whatever I need to do.
It's an interesting concept here real quickly. Everyone in the group works a 45-minute shift. And like a bell goes off, they say, stop working, take your break, now back to work for 45 minutes. So there's some rules as well, too, when you go to someone's place.
Might keep you accountable.
Yeah.
Then you're not wandering around.
I would say the hardest part, I work from home lots, the hardest part is you start at 5 in the morning and you look at night at 6 o'clock and you go, holy smokes, I spent my whole day working, and you said that earlier. Like, so that's the opposite of it, because if you love what you do, it's hard to put that away, and suddenly you realize the entire day is gone. You haven't taken those breaks, so the dinger idea is a good one.
Although some people need motivation, so they see other people around them that are working, they say, oh, I guess I better get working too, right? Because that happens too, let's be real.
And if nobody else is chatting in a quiet space, you don't want to be the one that's like, hey guys, how was your weekend, right?
Nope.
What I think about something like this is people are different, and I think this would really work for a lot of people I know. I know it wouldn't work for me. I'm a hyper-focuser. I go around the work for about an hour and do absolutely nothing, but once I start, I'll work for 2 hours, and if you stop me, then it's very unproductive. I have to get it done. But for most people are not like that, and I think this sort of social idea, I think, is really good. One of the other things too, it's a problem for me too, is if I sit down and work for 2 hours, it's really bad for your body to sit down for 2 hours. And there's a lot of new science suggesting that we need something that's called NEAT, which is non-exercise activity time. And when we sit down, there's actually changes happening in our body that cause long-term damage, and we should be standing up quite often, or even working up. The working out is here, you know.
The show's standing up.
And so I was at a meeting the other day, and half the room was standing up at any one time. And so I think there's some really good ideas in here. I think everyone has to find the space that works for them, right?
A lot of times.
I feel better.
Back here in our city, though, there is an ad agency that is allowing people to work when they want, where they they want. So there's kind of like another option there as well. So you don't necessarily have to go in and punch a clock, but you keep track of their hours in 15-minute increments.
Well, and there's huge efficiency for understanding your body and where you're at your peaks
Absolutely.
and lows, and being able to take advantage of that in terms of performance. So not necessarily putting in a huge period of time is necessarily productive. And so that's something to consider as well.
It depends on the type of work too. If I've got data entry to do, well, I can definitely do that in 45-minute bursts because it doesn't really engage my brain. You
I'd
know?
get someone else to do it.
Yeah, sometimes it's quicker.
What you may have heard at the BMO Center happening here on Stampede Park is the Boat and Sportsman Show. That is why we brought in Kelly Semple, who's the Executive Director for Hunting for Tomorrow and the Director of the AHEIA. There's the acronym, with, Alberta Hunter Education Instructors Association. One thing that is very unique about this Boat and Sportsman Show is understanding about empowering through education. Explain that.
Well, conservation education celebrates its 51st anniversary this year. So in Alberta, we have a huge legacy of taking people and giving them the opportunity to understand the outdoors. The Boat and Sportsman Show allows, and sometimes when the weather's not great, that's the best time to have a show because people are antsy, they want to do something outdoors, but they can't really get outside to do it. So you go to the show, you have an opportunity to walk through the aisles, meet people that are knowledgeable about the outdoors. There's literally dozens and dozens of organizations there that can talk about who they are and what they do, help people to learn about wildlife and wild places. The Birds of Prey Center is there if you want to go and see how many people have seen an owl or an eagle in real life, and they're there and you get a chance to interact with them. For some kids, they have not even had an opportunity to get any kind of connection with wildlife. So this is a first step in terms of doing that and opening the doors for them.
How important is it for this sort of education, especially at the younger levels?
I think it's huge. As we, it was kind of like talking about the GPS and the map idea. I think when people understand their food source and they understand their grassroots, it makes for people to have a more balanced lifestyle, and it gives them an opportunity to understand things beyond video games or whatever it might be, to really understanding the natural world, which they're part of.
Boy, if we can pull our kids away from video games, Jody, I'm telling you, we've done a miracle.
Do you know there's a movement towards that, and it's not just the forestry schools, but in Canmore there's a program called Nature's Tracks Forest Play, and they run these after-school programs where they take kids out and they learn how to make their own fire. They learn animal tracks. They learn all that stuff that we did as kids. You know, that it's like the free-range kids movement, and it's fabulous. So I hope that continues.
Yeah, it's really important. I mean, it's sad when you see kids that are so disconnected. And I had some kids out one time, and we were going down a trail, and there was a log across the trail, and the kid said, "What do I do?" He says, "I don't know what to do." And I said, "Step over it." And I thought, wow, we have some work to do.
Yeah, we have a lot of work to do, but it starts with education. Albie has always been preaching this as well, too. If you want to go out there and enjoy the outdoors, it starts with education.
Well, actually, I'm going to contradict you for a moment.
Yes.
Because it should start right from when a baby is born. They need to be spending much more time outside. And one of the most important things about getting a kid outside is the opportunity for them to actually explore and discover by themselves. And that's a fundamental part of how our brain develops and how we learn to be problem solvers, how we learn to manage risk, how we develop our tactile senses around how the world works. So very much of what you're talking about, like deep stuff in the brain structure. And I can't necessarily teach that. When we start talking about independent activity, then we need to do some teaching. Parents need to educate their kids about dangers in their neighborhood so they can go outside of their house and not get hurt. And when you start talking about going to the backcountry, absolutely, whether it's hunting or skiing or whatever, there's stuff you need to know. And that's when the courses are really important to get involved in.
Yeah, and for a lot of parents who are maybe a little uneducated, or maybe I was about to say inept, but that's not a nice word. Who are a little uneducated. It's great to go to a show like this, to meet someone like yourself, to understand what is out there and what they do need to know.
Well, and it's an opportunity to realize and perhaps identify an interest that you didn't even know you had.
There you go.
And with your kids as well, you're walking along and they suddenly have an interest in learning about birds, or they see a bear, or they see something that they're interested to learn more about, and that gives an opening to explore that interest more.
But it's not just about safety. There's other things going on as well.
For sure, there is. You can use it as a consumer-based opportunity. You can price shop. You can compare. You can talk to vendors. There's lots of interactive types of things that you can do if you want to learn to shoot a bow, or you want to play some of the different apps that are there as well, in an effort to try and connect kids with the outdoors. Yeah, there's just a bevy of things to do. So it's a time well spent for sure.
Yeah, so, and in a controlled environment as well, too, so you won't hurt yourself. Kelly Semple is here with us. She's the Executive Director of Hunting for Tomorrow and Director of Alberta Hunter Education Instructors Association. The Boat and Sportsman Show continues now right through the weekend. Look for this young lady and ask you as many questions as possible.
I like the young. Thank you.
There you go. Great having you here this morning as well.